What's going on, guys? This is Burrs, and this is part 1 of the International 782 Restore project I got going on right here. This thing. So basically, when I got it, it was running and it was smoking a little bit, but it ran. I mowed the guy's yard with it. Some of his yard.
Oh my god!
Just to make sure everything was in operating order, and it was. Didn't really have a ton of rust on it. Just a little surface rust here and there, and through taking it apart, I can confirm that I was right there. It did smoke a little bit, so the guy said he never used the choke. So I was making the assumption that it was just running rich. It could be a super easy fix with the carb. But I think what happened was these spark plugs suck. They're super dark. It's not oily, but it is dark, so I think they're kind of messed up. I'm going to throw some new spark plugs in, retighten these head bolts to torque spec, see if any were loose, see if we can get away with just a real simple fix. If not, I can take the heads off. Real easy, resurface them, put new gaskets on, we're in business. So this is the fuel line and the fuel filter. I'm not really happy with it, so I just bought replacement parts, and I'm going to throw that on here and replace the bushing and the shutoff valve, which were actually leaking. I didn't notice that, but once I started to try to use the shutoff valve, I noticed that it was leaking. So I'm just going to replace the shutoff valve, replace the the hose. This is 1/2 inch outer diameter hose, so I bought some of that, and I bought clamps because this actually has zip ties on it, which is completely ghetto. So we're gonna fix this thing all back up. So here's the list I got. Spark plugs, air filter, fuel line, fuel filter, fuel shutoff valve, gas tank bushing, transmission and rear oil and filter, lubricate everything with nice Lucas Oil heavy duty grease, repaint everything on the exterior. I can work on that other stuff during the winter, so I'm not worried about that. The one thing I do want to do though is get some rusty metal primer on the inside of the mower deck. So I sanded that all down, so I want to do that. And I want to replace the blades on the mower deck, and I got to get some washers and some cotter pins. I guess they're like quick cotter pins or whatever the hell they're called, R-clips. I need to get some of those because one was missing, and that was causing the mower deck to be low on one side. So that's real easy, $2 fix. And I got a seat spring because the spring was gone. It wasn't on the seat, so I got a seat spring and cap and screw, I guess. And I also got a fuse because, as you can see here, there's no fuse here. Fuse here, not here. Maybe that's why the lights weren't working. And the guy was like, oh, the lights don't work either. Well, I wonder why, bro. You dudes are setting a bad example. So that's what we're doing. Today is a Wednesday morning. So that's what we're doing, and I should get the majority of this work done by the end of the week. And until Saturday, when I can do a lot of the mechanical stuff, I'll go ahead and get painting. Alright, so yesterday I got the fenders and the bumper and everything sanded down. Some spots that aren't down to the metal, but it's smooth, so it's not going to show up once we do the primer and the paint. And then today I'm going to go ahead and hit up these fenders. That sucked. The schools are open and they're doing just fine. Alright, so in 8, 7, 6, 2.5 hours, I went ahead and got everything sanded, smooth. I'll go over it really quickly with some finishing touches before I prime it and then paint it. But that was a pretty good 2.5 hours worth of work. I really don't want to sand anything ever again after the picnic table and now this. I almost forgot to say in the beginning of this video, so I'm filming it now, make sure that you put all of your screws and everything in a baggie and label them, because you might not remember where something goes, and it's always good to be a little bit organized. Then you come across little shit like this.
You little shit! Do you know what you've done?
This is the idler screw. Whoop, almost lost it. Doesn't matter though, because as you can see, it's kind of bent. It's supposed to look like this. Straight. was wondering why this was not screwing in straight. That would be why. So where does the idler screw go? This is the idle fuel mixture right here. And that was kind of screwing in awkwardly, and I was wondering why, so I took it out and saw that, and I was like, I don't think it's supposed to be bent, and it's not. This is your idle, as far as your RPMs, and then this is your main fuel mixture. Everything else checks out, so I went ahead and ordered that, which is kind of hard to find, but I found it on partstree.com, so ordered that, waiting for that to come in. Alright, so what's the list look like? So, basically, what I'm going to do here is paint the exterior. The inside, it's not bad at all. There's no rust on the inside, so there's no use in really going through and all that at the moment. You can do that in the winter time. I'm not using it as much, but the exterior parts definitely going to be sanded down and painted. Fuel line, fuel filter, and the shutoff valve. When I was taking the line off, I realized that the bushing that goes into the fuel tank was leaking. So I got a new shutoff valve and bushing that I'm going to install in the fuel tank. And I can put that back in here. Spark plugs, air filter, rear oil, and rear oil, hydraulic oil filter. The carb idle air / fuel screw, which was not right. Head bolts, already done that, and yes, they were about 20 foot-pounds and recommended 25 to 30, so I re-torqued them to 30. Paint the muffler, did that. This is actually in decent shape, so I just really briefly sanded it. I mean, like 20 seconds worth of sanding, and then threw some 2000 degree ultra high temp paint on, so that's repainted. Everything else is a little bit rusty, but you gotta expect that with exhausts from 40 years ago. Went over and just generally tightened all the bolts on the chassis. PTO switch, which is right here. I can change that out. It's old and there was some rust on it, so I don't want to see that in the circle here. So I just got a new one for 15 bucks. Hit the grease points, which we talked about. Hit all of them with the exception of waiting for the T-slot and stuff back here until after I'm done painting the outside. I'll hit that with grease. And then the seat spring. The seat was missing a spring. It was a single spring, so it was a little bit of a rough ride. Low rider, rough rider. The spring's coming in, but the spring retainer, I think, and then the plastic piece that goes in the bottom so that when it hits, it doesn't scratch. I think that's like new old stock. They don't make it anymore, so I gotta try to find that somewhere. But those are generally the things that I'm doing here. I gotta wait for some parts at the moment, so I came out today just to kind of reevaluate and see, what I can do today. 100% gonna paint the rest of the parts. I painted the rear fenders and the middle body part, and then the part where the battery goes in and the electrical gets mounted. I painted that, and then the seat springs and the seat base, got that painted, and I gotta paint the fenders. I'm not really worried about painting the fenders and the hood and the grill at the moment, because I don't necessarily need to do it. So if I do get time of day, I will do that. But I can start this up and test it out and drive it around without those on there. So at the moment, that's not a necessity to get this up and running. The other thing I did was I took some of the heavy duty metal protectant by AMSOIL, MP metal protectant, and which I actually used on the whole bottom of my truck, and it repels water. So I put that in all the cables here. Everything that moved metal against metal, I sprayed a little bit on there, including the throttle, which now has a better feel to it. And then, I adjusted these cables and stuff. Because what was happening was this one over here that runs the throttle, that was getting caught on one of the other ones. So if you went real slow on the throttle, it wouldn't back off. So I moved it up, re-crimped the end, and it seems to work better now. So just waiting for parts. That's all you can do is wait. I mean, with these old tractors, you're not at the mercy of just driving to the store and picking up a part. A lot of these parts aren't going to be available readily. So just waiting on some parts. Also, I took the wheel weights off, and then I checked the air in the tires. By spec, they're supposed to be 12 in the front, 10 in the back. So I took air out of them to match what the specs are from the factory.